Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. So today's video is my monthly wrap up for the month of September. However, as always, I do a mid-month wrap up and an end of the month wrap up. So this is actually only my wrap up for the last 2 weeks of September. If you're curious what I read in the beginning of September, I will leave my mid-month wrap up linked in the description box below. For this video, I have 9 books to talk about. However, 3 of those books were featured in a vlog. So I'm going to talk about those 3 books at the end of the video. So I'm not going to be telling you too many thoughts of mine since I'd rather you just watch the vlog where I tell you all of my in-depth thoughts. So starting with books that were not in the vlog, I like to start at the bottom of my ratings and work my way up to the top of my ratings. So we're starting with 1 star because I unfortunately do have a 1-star book, and then we'll work our way up to 5 stars because I do have a 5-star book too. So unfortunately, I did give 1 star to A Heart of Blood and Ashes. This is a fantasy romance book. And yeah, I hated it. I hated it so much. I mean, okay, it was the most boring book ever. It was so boring. So let me give you a little synopsis. This is a fantasy romance, enemies to lovers, where we have our female character and our male character have an arranged marriage to kind of give themselves some political allies, because there is a big thing in this world where the woman's, where she comes from, the heir that she produces, and any baby she has is an heir, gets the whole kingdom. So basically, if this guy can impregnate this woman and have a baby, he will also get her whole kingdom. And he hates her dad because her dad and her brothers and everyone, and he thinks even her, which is why it starts as enemies to lovers, killed his parents. So he has beef with them. She hates her family's super mean to her. So she's down to marry this guy that also hates her because it's gonna screw over her family. And that's basically the premise for this book. I mean, plot-wise, not much happens. That's why, I'm not really telling you many details about the actual plot, the actual fantasy world, because the world building, where is it? The plot, where is it? It's not there. So, I mean, this novel really feels like you're just in a walking simulator, because the entire novel, it's like 500 plus pages, is just characters walking somewhere. They occasionally encounter some creatures, and it was so boring. It was so boring. And I really disliked both of the characters too. I thought the guy was so dumb. Okay, I hate miscommunication. Miscommunication is like the world's worst trope. I hate it so much. And the entire conflict of this novel relied on miscommunication. And it was so dumb. Like, the reason this miscommunication happened was so flimsy, in my opinion, that it just annoyed me so much. And our female character was the most docile woman ever. We kept being told she is a great queen. She has so many qualities that make her a great queen. And I'm like, okay, we're being told this over and over and over. Where are her good qualities? Because from what I can see, she's doing absolutely nothing, and she is the most passive character ever. I didn't realize how strongly I felt about this book until I started talking about it. I hated it, as you can tell. I was so disappointed because I love fantasy romance. So I'm gonna move on before this just turns into a really long video of me giving a rant review of this novel. But end of the story, Heart of Blood and Ashes, 1 star, do not recommend. Moving on, the next 3 books I have to talk about are all 3 stars. I didn't have any 2 stars. So the first 3 star I have to talk about is Voice of War. This is a self-published fantasy book that so many people hype up so much. This is like supposed to be some of the best self-published fantasy out there, and I thought it was just okay. This book was feeling much more like a 2-star book until the second half, where we got introduced a new point of view, and that new point of view was the only point of view I really cared about, and I really enjoyed that point of view, which is why I bumped it up to 3 stars. But the whole first half of it, there was nothing really there for me. The characters just didn't feel like real people. They felt like characters. I felt like we weren't really seeing the characters do stuff. We were just being told that they were doing stuff. And I was very confused while reading this book. Like, I restarted the audiobook 3 different times. I mean, then the first time I got 3 hours into the audiobook and I realized I have no idea what is happening. So then I restarted it, got an hour in, same issue. So then I restarted it and followed along with the actual ebook. And that time it like made a little bit more sense. And part of it was on me, but the other part was on the book. I do think this book is a bit confusing, and I think part of that fault lies with the book, not just me being dumb. Because I read a lot of audiobooks, I read a lot of fantasy books, I don't normally have this issue. But because I did enjoy the second half a lot more, I do still plan to continue on with the series because I'm hoping book 2 is much more like the second half of the book and not as much like the first half. And the ending to book 1 was very exciting, and I'm incredibly excited if the book 2 feels a lot more like the ending to book 1. Alright, the next 3-star I have is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This is my very first Mariana Zapata book, and I thought it was okay. So I was really excited for this book because I know a lot of people either love it or hate it with the slow burn. The slow burn is what Mariana Zapata is known for. This is a romance book, in case you didn't know. This is a sports romance book about a NFL football player and his personal assistant. Also, I just realized I didn't give you a synopsis for Voice of War. That's hard. Do I give a synopsis for Voice of War? I don't really want to. If you really want a synopsis for Voice of War, let me know down in the comments and I'll try to give you a synopsis. But honestly, the first half is so murky, and obviously I don't want to give you a synopsis for what happens at the end of the book. So if you really want one, well, let me know, but I'm not going to do one in this video unless I'm asked. So I'm sorry. Okay, moving back to Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This is a sports romance book, and Mariana Zapata is known for her slow burn. And I love slow burn. I love the tension. But in this book, I feel like there was the slow burn and there was the tension, but we didn't get as satisfying of a release of that tension as I wanted. So the best part of tension is building up to that moment, right? But I feel like the moment in The Wall of Winnipeg and Me was rushed, it was fast, and then the book ended, and I just wanted more. So I wanted more tension, and I wanted a bigger release of that tension at the end, if you know what I mean. And the last 3-star book I read for September, this was right at the end of September, so I literally read this yesterday, the last day of September, was Scream for Us. This is a smutty KU romance. Plot, not much. So honestly, me just saying smutty KU romance between one girl and the masked men from iconic Halloween movies, including Scream, Friday the 13th, and Halloween. You know, literally wearing the masks, and they meet at a Halloween party, and they really like each other when they meet. So I'm giving this 3 stars because I wanted more plot from it. This is a novella, and this is a general struggle I have with the novellas. I never care about them because I don't get enough character moments in the novella for me to care about the characters, and that's what happened in this book. The smut was good, but it just, like, the smut hits better if you care about the characters that are involved in those scenes, you know? So I liked this book. It's one of those books, though, that if the Halloween vibes weren't there, or if we weren't in spooky season right now, I think I would have given it a 2, because there is a lot that I was just kind of skimming through. But as an entry into October, this was a very fun read because we got some haunted house scenes. Not like real haunting, I mean like a haunted house attraction that people go to for Halloween. And we got a Halloween party, we got some fun costume moments. It was like, had a lot of fun Halloween vibes that got me excited for October. So that's why this book got a 3-star. The action that does happen besides just the smut is wild though. Like, this is a dark book. This is kind of like a mix of horror and romance, and so just definitely check trigger warnings if you're interested in this book, because dark stuff does happen in this book. So it was 3 stars. It was a perfect read to go enter into October, but I wouldn't really recommend this book outside of October. Next, I have a 4-star book, and that is Liar by Tate James. So this is book 2 in the Madison Kate series. The first book is called Hate. I absolutely loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I had so much fun with the second book as well. I gave it 4 stars though because there wasn't a ton actually happening in this book, but I love the characters so much that it was just fun to see all their little character moments throughout. But I needed a bit more happening in the plot to give it the full 5 stars. So I can't really give you a synopsis of this book because it would spoil the last book, but this is one of those romance series that follows the same people, so you have to read it in order. And Hate starts out with our main female character, Madison, getting framed for a crime she didn't commit. She gets ousted from this community for a year. She gets brought back. Her father is like the head honcho of this town. He really like used his daughter as a scapegoat to prove to the town that he can be a leader. And so her dad sucks. And she comes back, and living in her house are the 3 guys that she believes framed her for the crimes. And her dad goes on vacation, so she's just alone in this house with 3 guys that she hates. This is a reverse harem story, and it has an academic setting because they all go to the same college. There is so many fun moments in book 1. Those moments continue into book 2, but there are like these larger plot points about like gang wars and a stalker and a lot of other dark stuff, because this is a dark romance story, and they just didn't really get enough attention in book 2 in my opinion. But it was still a full 4-star book. I had a lot of fun times with this book, and I'm excited to continue on in the series. And lastly, my only 5-star for the last 2 weeks of September, and one of the best books I've read this year, is Mary by Nat Cassidy. This is a horror book, and it is perfection. Absolute perfection. This is said to be inspired by Carrie, but instead of a teenage girl getting her period, it is a middle-aged woman going through menopause. And basically she gets a call from her aunt in her hometown that her aunt is dying and she needs Mary to come back to her hometown and take care of her. But Mary has a lot of quirks. She's experiencing a lot of like creepy hallucinations, and the doctor tells her it's just because of menopause and it's normal, but she's like, yikes, I don't know if this is normal or not, and things kind of go off the rails from there. I think it is best to not know anything going into this book, because I didn't know anything going into this book, and I was so pleasantly surprised by all the shenanigans that happen. I mean, this book has every single one of my favorite horror tropes in it. It's not like you can just classify this book as one type of horror, because there's so many different things going on in this book. The character of Mary is one of the most unique characters I've ever read, and we are in her head for the whole book. So if you don't vibe with Mary, you're not gonna like this book. But I found Mary so entertaining to read from for her point of view. So I adored this book. It was amazing. I know it's kind of long for horror. It's like 400 pages, but please don't let that deter you from picking this up. It reads so fast. It is quite fast paced, and it's one of the most unique and cool and gruesome and scary and awesome horror books I've ever read. That is the end of the books that I didn't talk about in vlogs, but I do have 3 other books I talked about in a vlog where I read Cassidy's favorites, Covers with Cassidy. She's the awesome booktuber, and I read her favorite books for a vlog, and I will just quickly go through my ratings, but if you want more in-depth details about what I thought about these books, I will leave this vlog linked below. So for that vlog, I read The City of Brass. I gave this one 4 stars. I read There Are No Saints and gave it 5 stars. And I read Red Sister and gave it 5 stars. So for the last 2 weeks of September, including the vlog books, I have 3 5-star books: Red Sister, There Are No Saints, and Mary. And out of those 3 5 stars, my favorite one is Mary. That is it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite books that you read in September were. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving me a like and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you next time. Bye!